high school superintendent, and for 2 more months, I'm also on the city council. And so we'll go ahead and go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves. Natalie?
I'm Natalie Clement. I am Director of Teaching and Learning.
Monica Diaz, Director of Professional Learning and Student Engagement.
Dave?
Dave Griffiths, IT Director for Taskforce Union High School District.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Richard Wilkie. I'm the Economic Development Director for the city. I also sit on the school board, high school board. So thank you for all being here.
Kathy?
I'm Kathy Hughes, retired teacher from Taskforce Union High School after 42 years of teaching. I now work at the dispatch, and I'm also mentoring teachers over at Santa Cruz Valley Union High School.
Anthony Edwards, City Council, as well as consultant for our high school district, local pastor as well.
I'm Lisa Miller. I'm the Career and Technical Education Director for the district.
I'm Tina Daniels. I'm the Executive Director for Academics at the district.
I'm Noel Reck, a retired teacher and coach for the Cherry Creek High School District in Denver.
I'm Lisa Bradshaw. I'm the Director of Innovation and Technology at the Elementary School District.
I'm Jennifer McClintock. I'm the Director of Student Services for the Elementary School District.
Robin Howard, Grand Canyon University Admissions.
Hi, I'm Michaela Morris. I'm the University Admissions Manager for Southern Arizona for Grand Canyon University Admissions.
Scott Hamilton, Director of Outreach at Central Arizona College.
Andy Long, Dean of Enrollment at Central Arizona College.
Jenny Heath, Vice President of Student Services for Central Arizona College.
I'm Logan Kelly, Planning Manager with Cardinal Glass. We manufacture safety glass for residential market.
Remember what I'm Lisa Fitzgibbons, Casa Grande City Council and Mayor-elect.
Bam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Larry Raines, City Manager for the City of Casa Grande.
Sir?
Wade Matheson, work with Jones Ford, GOGMC here.
Good afternoon. Mike Cruz, Head of Government Affairs and Public Policy for Lucid Motors. I also do sit on the Casa Grande Elementary School District Government.
Ruben Perez, Kohler Company, Recruiting Department.
John Lottie, I'm Senior HR Manager for Kohler.
My name is Dave Keene. I'm the Fire Chief here in Casa Grande. I'm Jeff Cardita. I'm just a lieutenant.
LaJoy Gardner, the Assistant Principal of Academics for Union High School. I'm Mia Khan, I'm the Counseling Department Chair at Mr. Grande High School.
I'm Gloria Jimenez. I'm Dean of Students at Mr. Grande High School.
I'm Jovan Del Cid. I'm the school counselor at
I'm Jennifer Gordson, Public Relations Officer for Casa Grande District.
Lauren Jimenez, Service Manager at Larry Steiner Price of the Dodge.
Maria Duran, Assistant Director of Student Success at Casa Grande District.
And sir, over here with the GCU?
Yes, so I'm Steve Szymanski, University Development Counselor for County.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. It looks like we have a good cross-section of educators, community, city, as well as business partners. So we're glad you're all here. I know that Dr. Lineberry, the principal of Union, is dealing with the situation. And I think Mr. Danzy is stuck in traffic coming back from a class that a seminar he participated in this morning at DCU. I had a great morning. I went into classrooms and took notes on things that I heard students and teachers say, and I wanted to share with you. The teacher said, "Why are you late?" The student said, "Class started before I got here." The teacher said, "Why are you doing math multiplication on the floor?" The student said, "You told me to do it without using tables." The teacher said, "What's the chemical formula for water?" The student said, HIJKLMNO. Teacher said, "That's incorrect and silly." The student said, "But yesterday you said it was H2O. The teacher, naming one important thing that we have today that we didn't have 10 years ago. The student said, "Me." The teacher said, "George Washington not only chopped down his father's cherry tree, but he admitted to it. Do you know why his father didn't punish him?" The student said, "Because he still had an axe in his hand." The teacher said, "Your composition on my dog is exactly the same one your brothers did last year. Did you copy the paper?" "No, we have the same dog." The teacher said, what do you call a person who keeps talking when people are no longer interested? The student, a teacher. So those are some of the things we heard today. So we know that workforce development is a huge concern in our community right now. And so what we wanted to do is bring everybody together and talk about how we can graduate students that are more equipped to enter the work world with livable wages and the opportunity for growth. We want more of our students to attend college, and we want more of our students to attend trade schools. And Natalie and Monica are going to share some of our data here with us. But that's really our purpose, is to address those three areas, because we know that Arizona currently right now is lagging way behind nationally in the number of people who have post-secondary education degrees, who are qualified and things like that. And I tell people right now, the hardest place to get a job right now in the city of Casa Grande is McDonald's. Because of the limited experience you need at McDonald's. We have students that are trying to get there, as well as we have adults that's the qualifications. And so what we want to do is prepare our students to be marketable in that. And so, are you moving the slides, or am I doing that?
I am,
Okay, you went one too far.
sorry.
Our main talking points we're going to talk about today is our vision and goals for this task force. We're going to share with you some baseline data that we're hoping to really improve upon. Our three critical stances: engagement, what do you need out of this process? Because we all know we're here for a reason. And what can you contribute to the process? And then what will be our next steps? So as I talked about, we are a growing community, and we need employees collaboratively creating a pathway forward. You know, we got Lucid in here, we got Kohler in here, we got other companies, the Green Bay Packaging Company coming. They're all going to be competing for the same employees. And I remember Luis Sanchez talking about when they opened the Walmart distribution center probably 15 or 20 years ago, when he had to hire 2,000 people and people told him good luck. But at that time, it was finding 2,000 qualified people. And I think we face the same challenges now as finding qualified people. We have candidates, but are they what you're looking for? And then, of course, we want our students. We know that about 80% of the jobs that are going to be in the economy from 2030 on are going to require more than a high school diploma, whether it's a secondary education, some kind of secondary education degree, or some kind of specialized training. And we want our students to be able to make really good choices on which direction they want to go. To this, we want to see Central Arizona College's enrollment increase, Grand Canyon's enrollment increase from our students. We want to see trade schools here in our community, as well as other places, increase with Casa Grande graduates. And we want to see more of our graduates get hired at what I call our premier companies that we have in our industrial park now. So again, we know that Arizona is below the national average for adults with post-secondary training. We also know it takes a village or a city pulling together to raise and sustain student aspirations for college. And that's really what you all are. You're our village that we want to work with to make sure that we're providing the best opportunities for our students. So again, I've already kind of talked about the task force mission, which is increasing the number of students going into post-secondary education, going into trade schools, and increase students entering the workplace at livable wages with advancement opportunities. Our governing board president is here, Mr. Wilkie. And so this year we embarked on really looking at what is our mission that we have as a school district. And we defined our mission as that all Casa Grande Union High School students will graduate college and or career ready. And we said all because we don't want to say that it's okay that 20 or 15 or even 10% of our students are not going to graduate. We know right now, and they'll be sharing this data, that if every one of our students that's a senior this year graduates at the end of the year, our graduation rate will be 88%. Now, some of you say, Jeff, how could you be at 88% if they all graduate? We've already lost 12% of this class that are no longer in school. they've dropped out, or we cannot identify where they're at right now. And so 88% is obviously right now, we would take 88% graduation rate, but it's not an acceptable number moving forward because we want our students to have the best opportunities. And so when we talk about learning, there are 4 critical questions that we have to answer for our students. Number 1 is, what does our students need to know? And how do we know our students know it? And so what kind of assessments are we going to use to identify our students know it? Our 3rd critical question is, how do we react when students don't learn it? Which I can tell you has been a weakness of this district, is we've been a one chance learning for too long, where we teach it and we expect all kids to learn it. If they don't learn it, we continue to move on. And that's why our data is not where it needs to be. So this year we've been implementing what we call 2.5 period, which has a heavy component intervention, a heavy component of enrichment for our students to give them other opportunities to learn information. And the 4th critical question is, if our students learn it, then what do we do with them? How do we enhance that learning? Our core values, number 1 is equity, that all students are deserving of a quality education. The collaboration, that we all need to collaborate, families, community, educators, students, we need to collaborate and do what's best for our students. And then relationships. We know no significant learning takes place without a significant relationship between the educators and the students. If I asked all of you in here to identify who is your most influential teacher, and why, you would probably go into the characteristics of the teacher and how they inspired you, rather than they taught me algebra, or they taught me the 8 steps of grammar and things like that. One of the slogans we have is, if it's not good enough for our children, then it's not good enough for our district's children. So as a father or a grandfather, if I'm not willing to say that this education is of high quality for my grandson right now, then it's not of high quality for any of our 4,000 students, and we need to get better. So that, and then the second part is our priorities of collective efficacy, which is the belief that all of us working together will impact student achievement. And through research, we know that's the most effective strategy, is collective efficacy and increasing student achievement. Second is a guaranteed and viable curriculum. For too long, we haven't taught the college and career standards that our students need to know. And so we need to guarantee our students are being taught the curriculum they need to be able to be successful in the ACT test, to be successful in college, or successfully get into other fields. And so that, and then we need to close the learning gaps. We have all kinds of learning gaps within our schools. We have ethnicity learning gaps. We have economic learning gaps. We have male-female learning gaps. And we need to close all of these gaps where all of our students are excelling. And then last, we made these declarations that all students will feel safe at school. You all enjoyed going through the weapon detection system, I take it? Lieutenant, did you set it off?
I walked around it.
You walked around.
Nobody's
All right, so that all of our students will be treated with respect, that all our students will learn at high levels. We will educate student by student, skill by skill, no longer one size fits all. All students will enhance their spark to thrive. We know spark is really critical for our students, and that's where a lot of the people in here and our CTE programs are so vitally important, because students need to have their spark. That's one important thing, that they need to be able to develop that spark through the teachers, through clubs and that, and they need to have a voice to be able to use the spark. Right now, nationally, about 15% of our students say that they have all 3 of those characteristics in their life, that they know their spark, they have the ability to develop it, they have a voice. And that's in the Search Institute describes those 15% of the students as thriving students. And so think about that. They are saying 85% of our students currently are not thriving. And then we, as lifelong learners, we need to improve each day. We know now when students graduate, they're not going to know everything they need to know to be able to be successful. That it is how to learn and continuing to learn what's more important, is vitally important. And well-being matters for everybody in our community. We continue to deal with the mental health issues that is facing our community with our students. It's easy to blame it all on social media. And our district is currently involved in a lawsuit currently suing the social media companies for some of the things and the algorithms they're developing with social media, because those of us that have gray hair remember what school was like before we had social media. But to compound social media was the couple years that our students stayed at home, really enhancing their social media skills. And so this time I'm going to turn it over to our two directors. But since this is about college and increasing students in college, the other day a woman was bragging to a friend about her son who was in college. Our son is so brilliant. Every time we get a letter from him, we have to go to the dictionary. Her friend responded, "You're so lucky. Every time we get a letter from our son, we have to go to the bank." All right, I'll turn it over to Natalie and Monica at this time.
So this year we've adopted, as Superintendent Lavender said, 3 critical stances. And we're going to ask you to use those lenses today as we go through the data and possible solutions for our community. So the first one is strengths-based. We need to see what's going well. We need to reflect on what resources we have in our community, what's going well in our school district, what's going well with our students, because then we can build from there.
Our second is inquiry. And what we start from a stance of what could we try and what does better look like?
And then the third one is working from evidence. And you're going to be really tired of the evidence that I'm presenting because I put a bunch of it together for you, all kinds of data and graphs, because I'm a nerd like that. But there is some really strong evidence that shows us the points we can leverage, the areas we need to improve on, and maybe some places that we can connect.
So what can we learn? What can we learn from the American Superintendents Association? We have 3 goals today to really set us forward. One is, let's start with some type of common definition of what career, college, and life ready is as a starting point. Let's put us all at the same page, and we're gonna get that information today. What we're sharing is from the National College and Career Readiness Indicators from this association, because then we could build on those. Our second goal is to look, where are we now? We need to know where we are. We need to know our baseline. We need to know where we're starting from if we're going to know if we made an impact. So let's learn where we are now today. And third, our goal is once we know where we are, what are some ideas we might try? How are we going to come together? How are we going to find a way to see, just from inquiry, what could we try? And then ask, what does the evidence say? Does it say it's working? Does it say it has a positive impact? So from this National College and Career Readiness Indicators, this is what they share. As you look at the list, is this what you would expect to see as a definition of college ready?
No.
Is there anything, thank you. Is there anything on there that is missing that you thought for sure I would see that on that list for defining college ready? Even though we might not be able to get into the work today of really digging into this definition, maybe adding some things to this definition, this is our starting point. We're going to look at where we are with these indicators now and think about what we can do moving forward.
So I decided to just pull forward these last 3 years because they seem to be the most relevant when you look at the weird data that our state collected through and just following the pandemic. So if you look at this data, in some ways the numbers are going down. In some ways the numbers are going up. Data by itself doesn't mean a whole lot. So you need context in order to interpret data. I'll give you a little bit of context. The GPA of 2.8 or greater going down, while 40% is not where we want to be, the fact that that GPA average went down is actually not a negative thing. It's because we reintroduced rigor. And so grades mean something again, because that's something that went away during the pandemic. And so they kind of just got A's for participation. And now 80% of their grade is based on mastery, and that did have a significant impact on their GPA. So we're working on rebuilding them on that, but that's a work in progress. Those blue scores right there, that's our current senior class. So those aren't final scores yet. Number of AP exams getting at least a 3, which is a passing score on an AP exam. We're currently at 80. That means those are AP tests that they took freshman, sophomore, junior year. They haven't taken their senior AP tests yet. So that tells us that that trend is going upward. We have more and more students taking advanced placement. Similar, passing those AP classes with an A, B, or C. We don't have the data yet on our dual enrollment, so college classes while in high school for that particular group of students. Our Algebra 2 numbers are down. Part of that could be, again, that rigor in grading, but there are only half of our kids who have passed Algebra 2 and they can't graduate until they do. So we got a lot of seniors retaking that one right now. So that one's in blue right now because we need to get that score up as well. They haven't filled out the FAFSA yet. It hasn't been released. Our A, B, or C in English or math, that one's going down again with that grading rigor. And then ACT exam meets or exceeds a cut score in English, math, reading, or science subtests. That 555 is not a very big number when we look at 4,000 students, especially considering it could be the same student who passed it in 4 areas. So that person would count 4 times. But it is significantly higher than it has been in past years. So we're making gains, but we definitely need to accelerate that process.
When you say past years, are you talking 2021 to now, or are you talking 2015 to now?
The furthest the data that I could access went back was 2018.
And so the same thing, how would we define career ready? Because we're looking at 3 things, right? We're looking at college ready, career ready, and life ready, because we want our students to have all of those things when they graduate. And so here's some indicators from that National College and Career Readiness, that Superintendent's Association, that we can measure that might indicate that our students are career ready. And notice that it is identified a career interest and met 2 of the behavioral expectations as well.
I had a question about the dropout rate that Superintendent Lavender talked about. How does that compare to previous years?
We, I'm picturing the graph we just saw recently. It looks pretty close. 250, 240 was the last 4 years, if I'm remembering correctly.
So the dropout rate increased significantly during the pandemic, and then we've been recovering since then. Our graduation rate for the past school year, we'll get to that here in just a second. So if we look at our attendance rate is starting to improve again, which also improves our graduation rate. So those are fairly closely correlated. Our graduation rate 2 years ago was approximately 73%, which is just below the state average. And then this past year, it was just above 76%, which is just above the state average. And again, a lot of that is still impacted by choices that families made during the pandemic. We have students still enrolling in school who haven't been in school since 2020. A lot of the indicators here are connected to our CTE programs, career and technical education programs. So earning industry credentials, that's on the rise. One of our areas that we're kind of low in that we used to, like back in 2018, have a lot higher numbers in is the workplace learning experience. So that's something that this task force may be able to explore more in depth. 25 hours of community service and 2 or more organized co-curricular activities. We definitely have students who would be in those categories. It's just not something that we've historically tracked. There wasn't any data on it, but it's something we'd like to start gathering data on. So then if these are converted into rates, some of them can be rates. Some of them have to just be numbers, because if I am an AP student and I took all of the AP classes and counted that many times, so I can't really turn that into a student rate. But GPA of 2.8 or greater, you can see that the rate is decreasing. Again, we strongly believe that is due to the instructional rigor, and as soon as our students using the 2.5 and the intervention time, we backfilled those skills, we anticipate that will start increasing. The number of students meeting the cut score, that one we were able to do as a rate because we could take the number of students, multiply by the subtests, and figure out the rate of passing. Passing score on ASVAB, same thing. Completing the FAFSA, that has been challenging to get families to complete the FAFSA. I'm not sure they understand the value in it, why it matters, but it offers a lot of opportunities to our students, to our community, to our schools, and it has a direct impact on our state letter grade.
So a question about that, being that now county offers at CAC 2 free years of college after they graduate, what's the point of FAFSA? If FAFSA is for financial, I guess, assistance, if it's free. It's a requirement, but.
Yeah, it's a requirement because it's a last dollar scholarship. So if a student qualifies for federal aid, then the federal aid is used for their tuition and the scholarship would be used for, well, that scholarship is tuition only, but other scholarships would be used for other things. But it really helps to provide, the FAFSA provides funding for all types of educational needs, not just tuition, not just books, but food, transportation. So oftentimes completing the FAFSA gives the students the full financial resources that they would need to be a full-time student.
So understanding their perspective, is that what is being told to the high school students? Because I know my senior right now has no clue what FAFSA is.
Yes. So there are different modules that our school counselors, that's part of why our school counselors are here also, is to open that conversation with this task force on how to better communicate in a way that our students and families are understanding and that our community understands. Because we're not able to move the needle by ourselves, or you by yourself, like, you know, as in your profession, it takes all of us. So we want to make sure that we're working collaboratively. So that is absolutely the purpose of this task force, is to figure out how to do better. And then I want you to look at this far right one. This is CTE program concentrators. So for those of you who are familiar with CTE, the idea is that students will complete a course of study. So if I'm a culinary student preparing these amazing snacks that are in the back, which they did for you today, I want to make sure that I do the whole program, or at least 2 years. So those concentrators are doing at least 2 years in the same program. So if I'm doing construction or auto shop, I'm doing the 2 years so that I can really understand the content. When we look at those students, so we're looking at about 250 to 350 students per year are concentrators. And so that's with each graduating class. And so that's approximately, give or take, like a quarter of our students out. But amongst those students, that graduation rate is 98%, 97%, 96%. So we can draw a lot of conclusions from that, but I think it's very critical for this task force to know that when those students are committed and connected, that we see that higher graduation rate.
Just out of curiosity, out of those students, does the school interview them to figure out what they are doing to be successful?
So there are, would you like to answer? There are a lot of follow-ups with those students.
So in career and technical education, we track them from the minute they become a concentrator to 2 years post-graduation. So we will follow up with these students to find out if they're studying the program that they went through, if they've been placed in employment, if they're in the military. We even continue to track whether they've earned industry credentials outside of school. So we do follow up with them for quite a while.
Great question.
CTE, that question. So CTE courses, when are they offered? At what level?
Sophomore year.
There
For the
are
majority.
several that are for freshmen.
There are some that start freshman year, so some they can go all 4 years and some are just the 3 years.
So why the limitation? Just generic question, why the limitation in age?
So the part of the limitation is the number of teachers we have in the space that we have available. Another consideration is the maturity level of students in the certain occupations. We want them to be one more year mature.
We want a little more impulse control before they work with dangerous things.
It's just a generic statement, but you got a 95% rate. If you start earlier, you have more success. So it's a generic statement, but I don't know the details.
Well, and I know our school counselors, when they're meeting with students, really encourage them to choose a CTE pathway sophomore year, just in case they don't like it and they want to change, they can still get those 2 years in and be a concentrator.
And they are allowed to switch.
And that's also important, again, when we start thinking, we're gonna get to the place where we are talking about right now, where are we now? But is this where that inquiry comes? Is there things that we could do differently? Are there ways to, what does that look like? And that's really what we're hoping to do today. So this is exciting that things are already coming up that show that there's thinking around, let's try something, let's see what happens. And so how does the association define life ready? Do any of these words stand out to you? Do we see these in if we're here from, do we see these in our employees? Do we see these words these key words in our kids? Do we see them in our students? Grit, growth mindset, perseverance, self-awareness, social awareness, responsible decision-making skills. These are the skills that are built through and during their time here as well at school, and how are we doing in supporting that?
I think they really need to have financial information, because I think that person, whether they go to college, whether they just go to work, they don't know how to budget or manage anything financially. And that's really critical. I think that's one of the main things. And then I think they need to know about our capitalistic system, because they get out there and they don't know
you and me both.
how to start.
Yes, yeah. And so they do all take an economics course as a requirement for graduation, but does that translate into practical knowledge that they can use in their everyday life? And how can we as a community support that next step for application? I think that's a great observation.
And that's one of the things we're pushing this year is to do that financial reality check for the students. How much does life cost? You're going out on your own. What is rent? Oh, you get that thing about insurance. Which type of insurance? You got house, home, renter's insurance. You've got the health insurance. You've got car. Just to really, to your point, when they're getting ready to leave the nest, we want them to be at least eye open as they go out and embark in that adventure. So
they need to know that they have to pay their bills.
And would
Or
they?
get that letter Jeff was talking about.
And would they perhaps hear that message differently if it wasn't from a parent or a teacher, if it was from a community member?
It's a key element as well. I know at the National Football League, as a player engagement director, that was one of the hot topics that we would have to teach the players. And we bring in the different people that wouldn't work with budgets, and some of them don't even know how to write a check out. It's little stuff like, and these people have been to college, right? And so how to manage that money and the real, I guess, down to earth budgeting, taking care of all your bills, paying those bills, and not get someone else to do it, but you do it. You learn it, and you get that skill, that trait, and then you can be able to move forward and have a wonderful, successful career.
Absolutely.
This is where we transition into common definition with goal 1, right? Are we starting to build that together? We saw some different indicators of that. Goal 2 was, where are we right now? We didn't have life ready data, but I think that you probably can think of those things and how often we see those skills. But the next step is, as a district, we have aspirational goals for 100% of our students to be college, career, and life ready. And so we got to start somewhere. So we just wanted to give you some insight into where are we starting as a district, so then we can come together and how are we gonna combine those efforts to have even a greater impact? So a few of our goals.
So, and we want to make some big strides. So we may or may not hit the nail on the head, but by golly, we're going to try. And we're going to go down swinging if we go down. But I think we have the resources and the ability to make these types of gains. But as a community pulling together, we could potentially impact even greater gains. So our goal this year for the high school district is we will increase our mean ACT score in math by 5% and reading by 9%. So the way that goal was selected was, again, strengths-based, inquiry-based, data-based. The average range for the 13 states who test at least 95% of their students on the ACT, so we call that census testing, where it's in the school day, you're not waking up early on a Saturday, mom and dad drive you down to the testing center. No, you come to school, you're 11th grade, here's your test. So 13 states test ACT in that manner, census data. And the average score range nationally across those 13 states is between 17 and 19. The average composite score for the state of Arizona is 17.7. And so increasing that much puts us to that average range. Now, that's not adjusted for our demographics. That data is accounting for approximately 30% free and reduced lunch. And we are significantly higher than that. I don't know what our current year is, but I believe it's around 67%. So significantly higher number of students who are coming from families who are living below the poverty level.
And so what are some goals we can make for that career readiness? So, and they need to be measurable. So we're looking for a measurable goal. And one is we will increase the percentage of students scoring 35 or higher on the ASVAB from 27% to at least 30%. And we're going to talk on the next slides about why we chose that indicator, because there's sometimes some confusion about what that test is. And we will increase our graduation rate from 76% to at least 80%, hoping for 88%.
Superintendent Lavender said,
which is our ceiling right now, but will not continue to be our ceiling.
But we also want to push that ceiling higher.
Yes, we do.
So why ASVAB? The short answer is the career exploration score. So when we have all of our students take the ASVAB, then that career exploration score gets counted into what's called our ECAP. So that is that. Counselors, what does ECAP stand for? Anybody know?
Education Career Action Plan.
Yes, that. Educational Career Action Plan. You get an A for the day, Mia. So it helps us with our ECAP. It also gives students a profile, a score profile that looks kind of like this, that kind of shows them their strengths. And so maybe they are totally undecided. That is the number one major, correct? Undecided. And so maybe they need a little nudge in what direction would go well for them based on their strengths. So this profile with the career exploration components of the assessment can really help students when they're trying to figure out their path, can help counselors when they're guiding students. And if something comes back and it's like, oh, hey, your mechanical comprehension is terrible and you want to be a mechanic, okay, time to study. Like, it doesn't rule out anything, but it lets them know where they currently stand. So that's why the ASVAB is so valuable to us. It is also something that can be used as the military entrance score, so that AFQT, but they have to mark that they're interested in the military for that to go to a recruiter. Like, the recruiter doesn't just start calling you because you took the ASVAB. They have to select that.
And just to add another layer to that is us not wanting to just add one more thing on there. This is an indicator that supports our letter grade as well. This is something that supports us in increasing that. So we found a way that we could get students the information that they need, create a goal, and also not just add something completely different to what we're already doing.
Yeah, this is like FAFSA. It's part of our state letter grade. And so we can help students get really, because we could do other career surveys, but then it would be one more thing, one more test, and they have enough of those.
I used to use this because I had that sales and marketing program, and I had the on-the-job training where I actually placed students on the job. So I would place them in where their career interest is. That was the number one thing that I used, because I had every student take the ASVAB test, and then based on that, I knew exactly where to find their jobs. And so, right before I retired, we had 150 students working on the job, getting school credit for it, and I used that to place them where they, and some of them are still holding their jobs today.
And this is why you are in this room. Thank you for sharing that.
I'm like, just wait till the end when we get to hear all these ideas people are sharing out loud, because that is exactly why we wanted to be here today, is those ideas like that.
Yes, sir.
After you're saying every single student takes the ASVAB?
Yes.
Every school?
Yeah, junior.
And then does
Well, last year was
somebody sit down-
senior, this year is junior.
Does somebody sit down with them and go over their ASVAB and explain it to them, or are they just given the results?
So
Yeah, our counselors are shaking their heads
Yes.
yes back there.
Yeah, so so here for some military liaison, we actually had our ASVAB today. So we had it today and we'll have Thursday, so all juniors are scheduled to take it, and there's plenty of like info sent out, what it is, it's not, they're not signing up for the military, it's that. But yes, all juniors take it, and then seniors are given the option to take it as well, and then once we're done, so we've done this week, should get the results, next month or two, and then, somebody from MEPS comes down and interprets their scores. So generally though, we keep it, for interpretation, someone does explain it, but a lot of the times there's many students who aren't interested in it anyway, right, of course, so it's very like, we explain what it is, we allow them to sign up, but we do interpret, and we're hoping to have another ASVAB next semester.
I think it's great that you're doing it, and the ASVAB is really good, because it'll tell you career paths and areas that you're strong in and areas that you would excel in. I think it's great. I just wondered about the explaining it.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of what they spend their time on is explaining how to log in and see their scores and check their profile. And, something that we've discussed is, maybe we need a night where parents are part of that conversation also, so that they can help understand the scores, or, we don't have enough counselors for everybody to meet with their counselor every single score, but having those conversations. And so that's something that the task force could consider as well.
And seeing it beyond a score and about an opportunity. I think that's what the conversations you're talking about change things, right? When you have the conversation, when we have that, it becomes opportunity for students, not just a score on a test. And that is what we have to continue to build and work for.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, because what the chief is saying, it's great to have the test, and you do hit some of those students, but some of those students that aren't as active or engaged, it's still important for them to have that conversation, even if it's a very short conversation. So we do need to figure out ways of making sure that every student has a conversation so that they're more knowledgeable about what this whole thing could mean to them. Afford them the opportunity to sit down, maybe with a counselor. I know the counselors are like, they have a lot.
But we have a lot of
That's
people
where-
in our community who are educated about what this means. We have people from our universities and our trade schools who understand what those scores mean. So it doesn't have to just be the 6 counselors at the site explaining to 4,000 students. So that's why I said, I think absolutely it's something that this task force could consider. So our life readiness goals, these are considered senior tasks. And it is sometimes a challenge to motivate seniors to complete tasks, because I'm sure none of you ever experienced senioritis, but there is a little bit of a trend to feel like you're done and you have arrived. So they need to complete their ECAP, their FAFSA. We want them to make sure they complete an application for a post-secondary college or skill-based program, practice a job interview, complete a resume, and obtain a letter of recommendation. Those are our goals for our seniors this year. Some of them we've done in the past, not all of them. Some of them we're not 100% sure we currently have the manpower to complete, and we may be looking to some of you in this room for some support. But we also think that these are skills that help our students be ready for that next step, regardless of what path they choose.
So back to our mission. And back to the two questions that Jeff really started us with. What would you or your organization, how would you, your organization benefit when we accomplish this mission? We as all of us. And what can you contribute to accomplishing this mission? So now here's where we move on to goal number 3, where all of these great ideas that we're hearing popping up, but we know we haven't heard all of them. We take some time to start thinking, and what would this look like? So we know where we are. What does moving forward look like?
And just another couple of quotes to keep, kind of get you thinking. The data from College Ready shows that civically engaged teenagers make greater scholastic progress during high school and subsequently acquire higher levels of education than their otherwise similar peers. So civic engagement is something that this group could influence. And then this is really about employers being key partners. And one of those big places is, workplace training, volunteer opportunities, some of those things that we saw in those career readiness indicators. This article, it looks a little bit different on your page because this is all cut up, but you have a copy of just these excerpts. It's a longer publication. These are excerpts from chapter 2 about how communities can support career readiness. And so there are just some key pieces in there that I thought you may be interested in. Anybody who wants the whole article, it is the Supporting Post-Secondary Student Success, a Tactical Guidebook. So you can just Google that and it pops right up. And it was published by the Institute for Higher Education Policy.
So the teacher in us is saying that you have talked too much.
Yes.
Right? And that's not where learning happens. So we'd like you to talk with each other and start brainstorming some ideas about how we can start to make a difference.
And so this room is not how we as teachers would choose to set up our classroom. We really like collaborative tables, but this is a very large group and you would be a very large class. So what we're going to ask you to do is just kind of huddle up, get with a few people nearby so that you can have some dialogue, because we're stronger together than we are alone. You each have your own brainstorming document, so you don't have to write down anybody else's idea if you don't like it. You can write down only your favorites, but we do want to have that dialogue. Huddle up.
Yeah, it's on the opposite.
It's on the back of your article.
Yes.
It's on the back of your article. Do we need pens?
Oh.
Do we need pens or pencils? Or do we think everybody has one?
Yeah, and then we'll show you. So you're gonna bring us back together and the next step is done? This is more just a visual of what will our student support look like, but really here's the next steps like. And then.
Okay.
This is my favorite
Yeah. They're not as high.
Yeah, sorry. Which question do you want to tackle? Do you think that this task force
And every day. But here's the hard we're focused on standards that it never this, I'm just here, this is how we.
Yeah, you know, I enjoy it enough. I have to really get them in the right ball.
Try to do not only freedom for them, safe place in a classroom, watching the students. So it sparks an interest in whether or not that interest sets or not. I find that sink in the 50% of the study. I usually try to see a lot of automation.
Have our son, I'm saying, she got a job. Working hard. She got a job with 5 years. She knows. So I believe that
That's why I feel like I grew up in San Juan. My entire life, the intention was that they would graduate high school.
Average students.
So the concept of young, not knowing how to do anything, I find that so built a farm, someone driving a boat, you'll do it. So, but San Juan High School at the time had so many pushing the money flow was from the government. So we built more active, so everybody was investing in this learning of traits. To grow up. So So East Coast, West Coast. I think so I've seen a lot of coming back, it's just, it's gonna happen. It's just might be a little. Housing finance, 2009, 10, push that. I definitely slaved up to just kind of crush it. Anyone of a certain age, that's true, I'm retired, I'm also something else, dropped off the back. That's where I find the biggest struggle. I feel like this is all the right stuff. I feel like we do not reach our kids. Period. Flat out. Children are amazing, right?
So where do you see, what he's talking about, and what here's
I think it's the concepts. Like you said, good 100% graduate customers. It's like when you're young, when you're a child, playing before, you know. That's I could be wrong. That's how, because I don't hire. I hired.
How you can like that. And that happens.
That's the way I was. That's so amazing.
That's what I would want.
So I like. I like showing up very seated that way. It's a shock. They're not right now. That environment. They run a 20 laps earlier, the past they pass are When it comes to the education part, I wish I could work on it. Not in the sense that you don't have to work with your life. So that's why
But there's so many custodians and numbers we don't want
Okay. Everybody could return back. We're gonna go ahead and wrap some things up. We know this, you do not want to be in our parking lot at 3 o'clock. We'd love for Jeff to be in our parking lot at 3 o'clock, but you don't want to be in our parking lot at 3 o'clock as we release 2,000 students. So we want to wrap things up. We know we are a growing community. Our population is projected to go over 100,000 by about 2035, right, Larry? The last meeting, we had a presentation, and I think it was Kirk McCarville talked about, or one of us talked about, what are the selling points for Kohler, Green Bay Packaging, Lucid to come to Casa Grande? Location, because of the I-10 exchange, the future I-11 coming, cheap land, favorable tax rates. Nowhere in there did they say an abundant resource of employees. And I think when we have Kohler here, I think you're finding out that finding employees, finding affordable housing, which is something that we've really had to focus on. And I know it's going to be our incoming mayor is one of her top tasks is that, but we have to, we have the land, we have those things in place, but we also need the infrastructure in our city and we need the employees. And we want Kohler, we want Lucid, and all these employees. We want to be your first stop when you go out recruiting employees. We want our students to be attending CAC, to stay home, get those critical years out of the way, as well as going to our universities here. We just added a CTE program for welding because we know there's a critical need for welding in our community. And we're looking for ways to expand our CTE programs. Lisa, right now we have how many?
12.
12. And so we know we're going to want to add more because 12 isn't going to cover all of our students' sparks and things like that. So the next thing we want to talk about is we're going to ask you to do some feedback. We're going to create some summary, some results of what we heard today. We want to establish a steering committee for this, and we're going to ask you what your interest is, and whether it be on the steering committee, subcommittee, or participate in some events. Chief King was just telling me last year, him going out and doing interviews at the schools, he was able to hire 2 people for the Casa Grande Fire Department. Now, I hope this year, if we have you come out, you won't go through what we did last year with our city manager and lock him in for a couple hours. Because we had a video posted of somebody with a gun in our parking lot and so we put everybody in lockdown. It was an interesting day, not the time to have a lockdown. We went through all that looking for the gun. And they finally said, we can't find it. You might as well just go on. And the whole time we were looking, the gun was sitting in the parking lot over here because a student had moved over here with his girlfriend and was parked in this parking lot. So we eventually apprehended the student and apprehended the weapon. But hopefully that won't happen if we're doing some mock interviews. And now that I've got you all, I'm not going on that campus and stuff. And so scheduling some events. And so what we're going to ask you to do before you fill that out, I'm going to ask our board president to come up and I'm going to give him the last word. He's also our economic director for the city. So it's great having him on our board because we have that partnership as well. We have great, with Lisa, Larry, Anthony, and so we're able to work with our city people. Our police department's here today. Our fire department is here as well. But we're going to ask you to complete this with the QR code, complete the survey. I think 6 questions, about 6 or 7. And some of them are real hard questions like, what's your name? But Richard, we're going to give you the last word, sir.
I appreciate that. First, I want to thank you all for being here today. Obviously, as a parent who's got a son who's a senior at Union, I'm very passionate about making sure we're moving in the right direction, keep moving in the right direction under Mr. Lavender and the fine team he's assembled here. We are going in a better direction, and we're making progress. And this is an example of that. Previous to this, how many of you actually sat in this room and were asked, what are your thoughts? How do we work together? We have to do this together as a community. That's the only way we're really going to be able to help our kids, fully realize their full potential, and our schools, to that matter. And so, as the economic development director for the city, workforce is very much a key to success. I know Logan, who also sits on the local workforce board with me, we've been batting around ideas and struggles and issues for the last, 6, 8 years, it seems like forever. But you being here and providing, please take the time, fill out, send all your comments, suggestions, recommendations in. But my ask for you is to not just leave your comments and questions with us. Please find whatever one of those, the either committees or subcommittees, how you might be able to contribute on one of those, because this can't be a one and done deal if we're going to be successful. We have to make sure that we're continuously engaging each other so that we can come up with a better pathway forward that can support all of our students here, not just my son and Cardita's son, but for all of our kids and the kids coming into it. We're going to be working more closely with the elementary school district to try to make that a little bit more seamless. So thank you very much for being here. Other than that, again, thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you.
And just real quick before we go and you fill that out, after we did introductions, we did have some district personnel I want to introduce. Crystal Danzy is our principal at our Pace High School. Mr. Danzy is the principal here at Vista Advanced. We thank you for hosting us today. Jeanette Beecham is our executive director of business operations as well. And so we thank you all for coming today. Please fill this out. And in the notes, if you think of other people that should be a part of this team, please give us their name and number, and we will reach out to them as well.
And we did ask for your email address, so if you include that, we'll make sure you get a copy of these slides in case you want to reference any of them.
As well as the survey results. So again, thank you for coming today.
Grab a cookie on your way out.
Yes.
At least. Thank you, sir. Thank you.